বিভিন্ন দলিত স্তরে এরা
लेकिन फैसला ना संसद में ना सुप्रीम कोर्ट में होगा। इस देश का क्या भविष्य होगा? आप लोग सब नौजवान हैं, आप अपने बच्चों को किस तरह का देश देना चाहते हैं, ये फैसला कहाँ होगा? एक सड़कों पर होगा।
Do you remember that time when Manmohan Singh was pretending to be the Prime Minister of our country, but it was actually Sonia Gandhi who was taking all the decisions from behind? During that time, the government policy in India was not decided by the cabinet, but by a super cabinet called the NAC, or the National Advisory Council. It was filled with leftist activists like Aruna Roy, Yogendra Yadav, Harsh Mandar, etc. In 2014, when that corrupt and inept government was voted out of power, it should have been the end of this Jolawala gang's ability to control our lives. But that was not to be. When they lost government power, they took over the streets and continued to torment our country for denying them the power. In this vlog, we will examine how the radical left has been subverting democracy in India through use of violence since 2014, and how they have been attempting to deny us, the people of this country, the right to determine government policies. Watch this till the end to understand their tactics and methods. I am Madhavan and this is The Basement.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि मैं
Narendra Modi first took office as Prime Minister of India in May 2014. Tell you the truth, I still get goosebumps looking at that video. Almost immediately, the leftists started off their work to subvert the democratic verdict of Indian people. It started with the fake news campaign in late 2014 that churches in Delhi were under attack, being vandalized, robbed or burned down. This went on till the Delhi Assembly elections in February 2015, which resulted in a massive victory for Arvind Kejriwal and his party. It did not matter that the police investigation into these incidents was still going on and the facts were yet to emerge. The campaign was spearheaded by the usual suspects in the Jolawala gang and media outlets like the NDTV. They ran stories implying that Christians were under grave threat in India. Prominent Christians like Julia Ribeiro added fuel to the fire through their op-eds claiming they were scared to live in India as Christians. There was no two ways about it. The churches under attack propaganda was designed with the intention of maligning India and more specifically the Hindus of this country, because the left liberals hold us primarily responsible for them losing power and Modi becoming the Prime Minister. Eventually, when the investigation was complete, it turned out that these were just random incidents. In one case, a short circuit had set fire in a church. In another, a few thieves broke in and stole from the donation box. In another incident, kids were playing near a church and their cricket ball hit and shattered the window panes. There was no coordinated massive conspiracy to persecute Christians as was being claimed. But none of those who indulged in the fake news campaign and tried to incite religious tensions in the country took responsibility or were held to account by the government. They all conveniently moved on to the next item in their anti-democratic agenda. Do you remember Dadri or Akhlaq? These names were in quite a lot of demand in 2015 and served as the initiation point for a vicious campaign against Hindus in this country. In September 2015, a man called Muhammad Akhlaq was murdered by a mob suspecting him of having stolen and slaughtered a calf in Bisara village near Dadri in UP. What followed was an unprecedented and shameless exploitation of an unfortunate crime. Every media outlet set up shop in the village for 24/7 coverage. Every opposition politician from Rahul Gandhi to Kejriwal to Akhilesh Yadav to Lalu made a beeline to the village trying to extract the most political mileage from it. They all declared in a chorus, Muslim khatre mein hai. What followed was a 4-year campaign till the 2019 Lok Sabha elections to prove this lie to be true. Activists and activist writers started programs like Karwane Mohabbat and Awad Wapasi. Almost every major national and international media outlet produced documentaries and long articles declaring that India had become an intolerant nation with rampant mass violence against that particular community. They even established something called the hate tracker, which was so full of biased and fake information that they eventually had to take it down. Activist journalists went around the country with a microscope, especially in BJP ruled states, for incidents of crime involving Muslims and then magnified them into incidents of religious persecution. They even coined a term to serve their agenda, Lynchistan. Hindustan is now a Lynchistan, they declared. The propaganda went on relentlessly till the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Think about it. Have you even once heard about Gaurakshaks or mass violence ever since 2019 Lok Sabha elections? Why is it so? In March of 2018, Supreme Court of India delivered a judgment intending to make the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act fairer and in agreement with our constitutional values. As per this judgment, when a complaint is received under the SC/ST Act, it will no longer be permitted to straight away arrest the accused without a fair process and due investigation. However, this judgment was dubbed by the far-left Dalit organizations as watering down of the act that would expose Dalits to more atrocities. In response, they called for Bharat Bandh, which ended up in several incidents of violence, rioting and arson. This course of events was, however, not really surprising. Like I said earlier, almost immediately since Modi assumed office as Prime Minister, the leftist propagandists and media embarked on a mission to establish the growing intolerance propaganda. This, coupled with the Dalit atrocities disinformation, especially in Modi's home state of Gujarat, ahead of the assembly elections in that state in 2017, the country had already turned into a sensitive place. Peak of this disinformation campaign was the Bhima Koregaon riots in Maharashtra in January 2018. And the judgment on the SC/ST Act was like a trigger to set off the violence. The first video on this channel last year was in the backdrop of the riots after the Citizenship Amendment Act was passed. If you don't know what that law was or its purpose, I'd explained it in great detail in that video. If you haven't watched it yet, please watch it now. You'll find a link to that video in the description. But very briefly, this law allowed for a shorter path to citizenship for those Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Jains, Buddhists and Parsis who escaped religious persecution from 3 specific countries: Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan, and it was also applicable only to those who had already entered India as refugees before CAA was passed. It so happened that a great number of these refugees happened to be Hindus driven out of Pakistan. It is true that this law did not include Muslims from those countries, but that's because these three countries are either Islamic republics or have a majority Muslim population, and only non-Muslims in these countries face persecution. This would be clear to any straight thinking person, and there wouldn't be any controversy over a law that sought to provide protection to persecuted minorities. But when did our secular liberal establishment claim to be straight thinking? Their entire existence is to pursue a partisan Hindu-phobic agenda and to appease the Islamists. How can then they let government pass a law that would deny Islamists the pleasure of persecuting the Kafirs? So, what followed was months long violent protests all over India, but most intently in parts of Delhi and in university campuses like Aligarh Muslim University and Jamia Millia Islamia. This culminated in what is now famous as the Shaheen Bagh protests, which then led to the deadly riots in northeast Delhi.
ये फायरिंग हो रही है, ये फायरिंग हो रही है।
The drama at Shaheen Bagh ended in April in the backdrop of the COVID pandemic. Those who were adamant that they will not leave till the government withdrew the CAA dispersed within no time in fear of getting sick. That's how honest their cause was. Fast forward to September 2020. Modi government once again passed a set of three laws, this time to reform the agriculture sector in our country. I'm not going to discuss these three laws. Media is full of discussion about them, so there is no point repeating. I limit myself to say that without taking away any of the benefits that they enjoyed till then, these laws provide more freedom to the farmers to sell their produce wherever they want and to cultivate their land as they want. Many agricultural economists, scientists, and many farmers themselves endorse this law as being beneficial to the farm sector in the country. As has now become a norm, anything done by the Modi government for the benefit of the country has to be opposed by the radical left activists, and the Modi government will oblige and allow this tiny, ideologically motivated minority that has no democratic legitimacy, no public acceptance to dictate how this country should be run. So, we are where we are. Delhi is once again under siege. For more than 60 days, all major roads connecting Delhi to the rest of the country have been blockaded. And we have all seen what these protesters did on Republic Day this year. The so-called Annadatas attempted an insurrection in our national capital. The streets of Delhi were taken over by these alcohol-fueled goons with tractors, swords, rods and other weapons. The hapless Delhi police were mercilessly attacked. They only narrowly escaped being run over with tractors. The right word to describe these gundas is not Annadatas. They should rightly be called Annadadas. These dadas went on to take over the Red Fort, that symbol of India's independence and power. And there they replaced the national flag with their religious flag. Ideally, I shouldn't have to, but I'll point out just one thing anyway. In a democracy, citizens of a country are the ones who rule. It is they and only they who have the right to make or remove any law. And they do so through their representatives in the legislatures. In our country, the parliament and the state assemblies represent the legislatures. They represent the people and what they want. You may think people sitting in our legislatures are stupid, corrupt, or criminals. They might be passing laws that, in your assessment, do not make any sense. They may not be doing a good job, and you may think, as a self proclaimed intellectual, you can do a better job than them. But tough luck, because you have not been entrusted by the people of this country to make laws for them. If you think you have a better vision and can do a better job than the current lot, there is only one way to do that in a democratic setup. Convince the voters. Convince them to believe in your vision. Convince them to vote for you or to somebody who commits to implementing your vision. That's the way democracy works. That's the only way democracy can work. Working to undermine the authority of the parliament or the assemblies is nothing but an attempt to undermine democracy. It is an attempt to steal the right of people to rule. It is a form of colonialism imposed by a bunch of unelected elites to serve their vested interests. If you look at the people involved in all the radical left fueled agitations and riots that have happened in this country ever since Modi was elected as Prime Minister, you will come across many common characters working in the background. Yogendra Yadav, Arundhati Roy, Harsh Mandar, Medha Patkar, etc. Many of these people at one point or the other in the past have tried to get themselves elected and have so badly been rejected by the people that there is no doubt left about their public acceptance. All these failed direct and indirect politicians have realized that they are never going to get public support and to implement their agenda through a democratic process. So, after being completely rejected by people, they are now using street power to blackmail the country into accepting their agenda. Just look at the current farmers' protests. It's only a small fraction of farmers from 2 or 3 states who have a problem with the new laws. And the government has bent over backwards trying to accommodate them. They've even agreed to suspend the implementation of the farm laws for 1 to 1.5 years. But the so-called farmers do not wish to negotiate. They are adamant that they just want these laws gone. How can farmers of 2 or 3 states dictate what can be implemented in the rest of the country? Is that a fair proposal? The Modi government also cannot escape scrutiny in this entire matter. The first and foremost duty of any democratically elected government is to maintain law and order, to protect lives and livelihoods of people. Repeatedly, for whatever reason, the government has submitted before the street power unleashed by the radical left. The failure of Modi government is only emboldening the leftists. They have now dared to break into the Red Fort. What they do next might be worse. Before that happens, it is the duty of each one of us, the citizens of this country, to stand up and defend our democracy. We need to ensure that a violent, politically motivated leftist minority doesn't get to decide how our country is run. It is time to remind those in the government that they have been elected to do a job. They better get their act together and fulfill their Rajdharma. This country, and especially the Hindus of this country, have already paid a huge price for turning one politician into a Mahatma. There cannot be a repeat of the same mistake. We, the people, are watching. Hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to the channel and leave your feedback in the comments. Please share this video with your family and friends. Your support is what inspires us to work harder and produce better content. Till I see you again, thank you. Namaste.